If you have a true scary story you want to send my way, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And of course, thank you. I grew up in Belgium, Europe. Since I was young, I've been with my friends in the Scouts. It's mixed in Belgium. We don't have boys and girls apart, usually. We start Scouts when we are 6 years old, and then we go through all the groups until we are 18. That's when we become Scout leaders, usually. I'm saying this to give you a little background on me and my friends. We are people who I would consider close with nature, camping, and overall used to a lot. I would not say we are your typical rough outdoors lumber type of person, but we can manage ourselves well through a forest. Back when we were around 16 years old, one of my friends invited our group to go wild camping in the forest that we have close to our homes. It is not your average American national park, I wish, with stories of Bigfoot or worse. But it definitely has its own charm and legends. We have a centuries-old tale about werewolves in our forest, and a couple of legends about witches. It is not a huge forest, but one can get easily lost if they are not familiar with its trails, and all the trees look the same. This being said, to describe it the best I can, we were very familiar with the forest, since we were small children playing in the tree line and afterwards as teenagers being blindly dropped with nothing but a map in the middle of it by our leaders. I don't know whether this game is popular in other countries to the Scouts, but in Belgium, it is very well known and quite safe, actually. We don't have bears, or until a year back, wolves. And when dropped, we would carry lights, so just in case anyone didn't manage his or her way out, they would be spotted easily by a search party. Again, this is not a national park that is so huge a person could go missing for days. That being said again, we were very familiar with the forest, and we were all locals from the village nearby. So, we started our camping journey with our bikes from the village to the entrance of the forest. And, once there, we would continue to the deeper parts of the forest on foot, since it was an area with lots of hills and few trails for bikes. The mood was good. It was beautiful, although a bit cold. It was an autumn evening with few clouds and a beautiful sunset. We hiked our way through the forest until we got to a small clearing with some grass, and prepared our tents for the night. We made a small campfire. We always learned to be safe, never putting in danger in the forest, and ate some beans and sausages for dinner, together with some tasty Belgian beers. Around 11 p.m., we decided to call it a night, and we each went to sleep in our tents and sleeping bags. Everything seemed like a normal camping day in the forest. Then, suddenly, at around 1:30 a.m., we woke up to the sound of what seemed to be like drums. A couple of us got out of our tents with our flashlights asking what was going on. Our forest had always been a quiet place at night, and during the day the only noise you could hear were the critters. So you can imagine the surprise of hearing drums in the middle of the night. We were located on a flat area on the side of a hill, to have a beautiful view in the morning. And at the other side of the hill, over the top, we saw light and smoke of what seemed to be a bonfire. We figured that had to be the place where the drum noise was coming from. So the ones who had gotten out of our tents decided to just go over there and see what was going on, and maybe talk with the people who decided that it was a good plan to be making noise in a calm forest at 1:30 in the morning. We hiked over the hill so that we could have a glance at the people to know who we were dealing with first. We walked about 15 minutes before we could actually see the bonfire. It was located in a small circled clearing with lots of trees and bushes around. We crouched toward the bushes in the tree line to get a look of what was going on, and that is when we saw the people with the drums. A couple of them, I recall a group of 5 to 6, sat around the fire playing the same tune on the drums the whole time, and another group of people was dancing around the bonfire. Although I say dancing right now, I mean these people were making weird, unnatural movements, almost as if they were having spasms. And honestly, the best way to describe it is bodies contorting. The people dancing around the circles were wearing suits. At first glance would make it look like people dressing to be one with nature, but a second glance would make it look like pagan suits. Almost like the original celebrations of Halloween. See Sam Hain. This was when we realized that whatever these people were doing, whether it was some sort of gag or seriously some sort of ritual, we would be better off if we did not confront them. So we decided to back off and go back to our camping spot as quiet as possible. Once there, we decided to wake the rest and tell them what we had seen. We packed up that same moment and left to the entrance of the forest. We then got on our bikes and all went back home. We have since still frequented the forest, both our scouts and in our free time with our friends and family, and we've never seen this circle of people again. However, it has stuck with me ever since, and I will never forget how we felt out of our place in the forest for the first time in our lives. It's the first time, and luckily the last time, that we did not feel welcome in our own forest. Hi guys. So before I start this post, I will say that I was very young, but my mother recalls the experience quite clearly. I'm not really into cryptozoology at all, but I'm curious if this is a common sighting, or what exactly my mother, father, and I experienced. This was along Route 66, going from Texas into New Mexico. We were heading to my great-grandfather's funeral back in 2005, in the middle of the summer, and I was 10 at the time. The sun was starting to set, and I remember us talking. I'm eating a Happy Meal they bought me at the time, and we're just swapping stories and having a good time. They made this little cubby-like area in the trunk for me to lay down in, color, etc. But most of the trip was spent just looking out the window, watching things pass by. While my parents were talking and the radio was on, I was just watching the world pass. But I remember very clearly seeing a man standing and staring at cars. He wore a black trench coat, bowler, or perhaps a top hat, had a black beard, but the part that I remember the most vividly was bright, glowing red eyes. I pointed it out to my mom, who was distracted at the time, having not seen it. Well, a couple of hours go by and I'm still looking out my window. I made a little game for myself to see if I could count how many birds I could spot along the way, and the sun was starting to set. Next thing I know, I see the same dude just ahead of us. But because of the dark, the eyes were a lot more intense. My mom got a little concerned about it and told my dad to speed up. Eventually fatigue set in and we found a rest stop. It was pitch black there. Like the kind of dark you can't even see your own feet in without light. And we were all trying to sleep. I had to go to the bathroom, and my dad walked out with me as I was rather freaked out from the sightings earlier, worried the guy would come to grab me. As we got out of the car, I remember my father staring off into the distance, and he told me to hurry up, though keeping his usual calm demeanor. When I finished and got back into the car, he started it, and we took off again, driving to stay at a motel instead. I asked him and my mother about it recently as we were reminiscing together about the trips we've taken. When I asked my dad why he had us go to a motel, he claimed it was because he saw the same pair of eyes staring at us from a hill near where we were, above a rocky outcrop. Does anyone have any ideas or stories as to what exactly this could have been? I remember the eyes so vividly. It's burned into my mind, as well as him being out in the desert heat with a heavy trench coat. And I'm just not sure. My dad swears it was the devil. My mom thinks it was a chupacabra of some sort. I myself am not sure. Any thoughts would be appreciated. As I said, this was over 19 years ago, and I haven't seen anything since, as I live far away from Route 66 now. Hello. I'm new to the community, but I joined right after what just happened, and I'm pretty sure I may have encountered something. I've been hiking through forests all day, and I thought I saw something odd out of the corner of my eye earlier, but I figured it was a peaceful entity because I got no weird vibes, and I was walking peacefully and respectfully through the forest. I'm staying in a little pension B&B type place, and I started feeling really off, and my general vibe was weird, so I wanted to reset by meditating in their garden. While looking at the stars and stating my wishes and goals during my mindfulness process, I start hearing what sounds to be a cat yowling. And I'm one to always help an animal in need, but this yowling started to echo and sound really odd. Almost distorted and really messed up, so I immediately went back inside. What makes this even more creepy, which is why I came in here to get opinions rather than just move on from it and go to sleep, is that my mom, who I am here with, saw something earlier and yelled, "What the hell is that?" And she said that she saw a fox, mink, rat creature underneath a stop sign. She later described it as a cat, but really low to the ground. But I live in the Czech Republic, and you don't really see minks around here. Me and my brother were confused because we didn't see anything, and then she said, "Let me go up to it. Maybe I can scare it." And keep in mind, I think she's pretty in touch with good and bad omens. She's a powerful woman, and won't take crap from anyone if she doesn't want them to. And she would never want to scare a random innocent creature. But I gather that her intuition told her that running up to it and scaring it away was the right thing to do. Because then she said that it scurried into the bushes. Supposedly. I never saw it, nor heard it. Another neighbor later asked us if we were looking for a cat, which means that this howling was the third or fourth connection to something weird. So maybe when I was alone outside, this entity thought that it could get my attention through howling and sounding like it was in pain? I don't know exactly, but I did know to come inside immediately, because that howling was demonic, and I did not want to help whatever sound was coming from multiple directions. Opinions? I'm going on vacation out of country on Sunday, and I was packing my bag today to go visit my family for the weekend, a few hours away from where I go to college. I went to put my retainer in the bag and my case was in the usual spot, but it was empty. So I tore my entire room apart. Nothing. Then I asked my girlfriend to come over. We searched my entire house high to low for an hour and still nothing. I had to leave as I was heading out of town, so my girlfriend stayed and looked for another 3 hours, and she found absolutely nothing. And I mean as far as every item of clothing and every drawer, garbages, under furniture, and side furniture, and completely tore the 2 beds apart. I am absolutely so confused. I only live with my girlfriend. I didn't wear my retainer for the last couple of nights because I've been sick, and I never bring it out of the house. I definitely wore it a couple of evenings ago, cause we both remember me wearing it, but not while I was sick. And if I did wear it, it was not out of the house. I haven't worn it out of the house in years. We've had no visitors come, Our house is very clean and organized, and we completely flipped over every piece of it. And now I'm feeling paranoid that I'm either losing my mind or I have, like, a ghost. My hairdryer and perfume went missing in the last 2 weeks as well, but I assumed I left it home at my parents' house. Guess I'll find out soon. And I'm not saying it's not a theft, but we have security cameras, and my town is extremely small. Crime rate is extremely low. It's not even existent. I lock my doors every day when I go to work, and nobody's living in our basement or walls. I would be shocked if somebody broke into my house to steal a used retainer. I'm just so confused. I just listened to one of your stories about a man and his daughter freaking out about a telepathic experience. As for me, I've always found telepathy normal. My mother and sister and father have often been on long car drives, unwinding and relaxing, just flexing our minds. Nothing that we were previously discussing at all would suddenly come up in a comment or sometimes a question about something. And fast forward to when I was in my 20s, I worked for a general dentist who did a wide variety of procedures, as he also taught at the University of Louisville Dental School. My job description was to anticipate what the dentist would need, and we did this by knowing the procedures we were about to do and the included normal steps, but also anticipate different scenarios. If I saw things were going a certain way, I could simply use my educated logic to determine alternate methods we might use. I pretty quickly realized that the closer that your head is to another person's head, that you could read their mind. It may sound strange, but now technology by the name of near field refers to messaging another person's phone with yours. The human brain is way faster than any computer. Well, I can tell you that, often, I would know something that the dentist was thinking unrelated to any dental procedure. I concluded that it's because your mind is really free when you are doing something you know well how to do, and are physically doing it. It's the same when you're around people in your family, or that you trust. It just flows. I was coming home late one night and had no intention of stopping, but I felt my mom think, get me 5 White Castles. I got this message 3 times, so I did. I got into the door to find a little sack of 5 right on top of our stove. I'd gotten it a little wrong, I guess. In later years, as bizarre as this sounds, I found it wasn't just when people's heads were near to one another. It could be way across the expanse of ground, but I could pick up someone's creepy vibe when I worked campus security, and now I can feel something or someone before I can even see them. A couple of nights ago, my little mixed terrier barked ferociously as I walked across the street, several feet, to my mailbox. And I too seemed to have a very strong aversion to moving forward. I have good night vision. I finally just stopped mid-step. Suddenly, I saw that I was right on top of a young man in all black with his hoodie up over his head and face pointed downward. Basically, he was invisible because of his black garb and low level of light. And my dog likely smelled him, but I felt his presence. My grandmother would routinely know when her half-brother's daughter would be calling. We were in Kentucky, and Helen, her niece, was in Hawaii. And she'd say, "Helen's gonna call me tonight, so pick up the phone and say hi, Helen." Did she say she was calling? I would ask ignorantly. No, I felt her think it. It would ring in a couple of hours. "Hello, Helen. Who's this?" "Carla." "How did you know I was going to call?" "Grandma said that you would, a couple of hours ago." Or, my dad, near the end of his life, was bedbound and could not see outside. I came home from work and he said, "You have a new car. It's red, like the Camaro, but it's not your Camaro." No one had seen it yet. I had actually gotten it on my way home the night before, and left before his caregiver arrived hours later. I said, "Yeah, it's an Ultima Coupe, red." But he was able to see it. He also warned me not to go to a little tool shed shaped like a barn, because it was dangerous and buzzing with hornets, he said. Looking in the window, I saw nothing, but it was later discovered that an empty new trash can held a humongous hive of some mud dauber bees. He couldn't go or see outside, nor could you see it while looking in, but they were there. I feel that is what's called remote viewing in those two instances, and the White Castles were telepathy, as well as my grandmother and her niece. To me, that's the way we always used to communicate in our family before cell phones. Anyone else experience that as a normal way you and your mom or siblings routinely communicated? Or was it just me? Anyway, it's not creepy to me, but rather comforting. I was working for a hospital system that included 2 adult hospitals and 1 children's hospital, all connected by ground floor tunnels and/or sky bridges. I was at the children's hospital all day this day, and on their trauma team they got the Level 1 center, which means they deal with life-threatening emergency situations. Stabbings, gunshots, and serious auto accidents, etc. The day was so slow and nothing was happening. A good thing. I knew I should seize the opportunity to get my second shift lunch, and as we had not been busy, a medtech and I had talked our heads off about crazy happenings, like this show does, and we related many strange happenings. I told her that I had a bizarre ability to know when people touched something of mine. She looked at me, probably doubting my sanity. I thought, at the time at least. When my dinner time arrived, I went across the pedway to another hospital that was physically connected but not related. We'd always think the lunches were better at the other hospitals. We'd see a mass migration from theirs to our hospital and ours to theirs. So the pedways were literally several blocks long, and therefore contained necessary emergency phones. Suddenly, I stopped dead center in the pedway and dialed the 4 numbers to reach the lab, and the medtech answered. I said, "Put my rosary back into my purse," and yes, I felt it. She was super freaked out about how I could have possibly known. Well, I told her. It started with me getting home from a hot day in the sun from working all day. I was very exhausted, so I decided to lay down. I didn't sleep too long. I woke up, I felt really thirsty, so I went into the kitchen to grab a glass. I filled my glass halfway with water. I won't drink a whole glass of water at the moment. I didn't drink it up to this day. I don't know why I didn't drink it then, but instead I put it down. I walked to the living room to get to my bedroom. I had to walk through my sister's room, and as I walked through the room, my sister and her boyfriend were sitting there chatting. I said hey, but they continued to chat like they couldn't hear me, so I just ignored it. When I got into the living room, forgetting what I had come in there for, I just said screw it, I'm going back to bed. I'm tired. As I walked back through the room, I was like, hey, y'all, yeah, again. And they ignored me. I thought they were just being funny. I said I'm too tired for this, so I turned around and I looked at the glass of water. I said that I really needed to drink it because I was thirsty, so I drank the water that I put down on the counter. As I walked into my room, I turned to look at my bed, and I could see myself there. I saw my whole body lying on the bed. I got scared. I jumped back as I did. I felt myself wake up, and it felt like a nightmare. It was like that was the craziest dream that I have ever had, so I got up to go to the bathroom. I walked through the kitchen and noticed that the glass was still there, but was empty where I drank my water. I said, that's weird, but maybe somebody else put it there after they drank some water. But why in the same spot? So I walked back into my sister's room again, and there they were all chatting, and I said, did y'all hear me a while ago? They were like, no, we didn't hear anything. So it freaked me out that they were actually talking to me now. I then go back to my room, and I sit on my bed and wonder, was I dreaming? But if I was, why was the cup in the same spot that I left it? I, a young adult female, had been to many a Halloween party and nightclubs we'd hung out in over time. They would have the best costume prizes, and the music where we went was fantastic. I loved to fast dance, so I would stick to beer and keep hydrated and happy, and then I'd easily be sober to go home. But I'd passed that phase, now in my late 20s. Some of my best friends had even moved away, making me feel empty. I now dated a guy who was a bit older, and had at that time met a brother of his and his wife. They were really nice. I started finding his wife, Lee, enjoyed some of the same hobbies as I did, and the conversation between us always really flowed. We made fast friends. She adored Halloween and had a great sense of humor. It was very talkative, fun, and creative. She asked if I'd come to her Halloween party that she and her husband were hosting, and they would have a bonfire on their land and cook out and grill some steaks. It sounded fun. First, my date wouldn't come, because he was adamantly opposed to Halloween due to his convictions. I later wisely dumped him. I liked the hostess so much, though, and we'd often meet for lunch during my break from work, which was a whole hour long. At one of our lunches, Lee begged me to come whether the guy I was dating wanted to go or not, and I agreed. I decided upon being a fuchsia-colored butterfly with these giant sequined wings. I actually looked really good. I met many of their friends, all fun and open to talking to me, but they all already knew one another, and apparently went to some church together, which was fine. But honestly, they were all too old for me, and talked about things that I couldn't care less about. I was never so bored as they laughed at what seemed nothing much. Here I sat without even a simple highball or a glass of wine and ever heavier butterfly wings. The costumes are much more fun when you've had a few beers or something, I mused to myself. Hell, I didn't know this was going to be a tri-party, I was thinking. They were all teetotalers, I thought. I felt hungry and was sick of the Diet Coke that I was sipping, disappointed. The house was newly built and very artistically decorated. The basement we were in had big windows with curtains, and the floor was carpeted, and it was beautiful. She'd placed her mechanical witch on the hearth of the fireplace, and since she loved cats, as I do, had several cat figurines and pumpkins scattered about tastefully. Suddenly, everyone got the word. The bonfire was ready, and people stood all at once to ascend the steps and then go outside to the backyard. I began to stand up then and was really struggling with my wings. They were so bulky and long, and now everyone was ahead of me leaving. I got them off and then put them aside to go upstairs, when someone poked me kind of hard in my back. Turning, thinking I was the last person upstairs, I saw the mechanical witch. She then moved her machinery around a little, moving her head and then stopped. I knew she'd stopped working a couple of years ago, but it had been the end of her broomstick. I wasn't really near her, I thought, as a deep feeling of dread flooded over me. All I can say was that the air around me felt pressurized, and I caught up to the other people to join in putting hot dogs on coat hangers and marshmallows, and just being glad I was out of that damned basement. I ended up leaving my wings, and I didn't look back. So that, my friends, was the 6th collection of strange and scary stories, a collection of stories that aren't necessarily scary, and aren't necessarily strange, but are somewhere between strange and scary. I don't know. I like to do collections of stories that aren't necessarily creepy, though I think really all these kind of, well, not all of them, but a good portion of them definitely have that creepy air about them. Like, yeah, they're actually kind of creepy. But not all of them necessarily are like, that was terrifying kind of stories. They're not necessarily unexplained either, though the black trench coat guy would definitely be unexplained. But they're definitely weird. I guess that's my point. They're weird stories, but I'm not going to put like, oh, true weird stories. They're strange and scary. That's what they are. It's what I do on this channel. And, yeah. I don't know. Whatever. Hopefully you all enjoyed them. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button. It helps tremendously to push this video to more viewers. You can also subscribe to the channel if you feel like doing so. You don't have to, but it's appreciated. Makes me feel better about things. You can alternatively leave me a comment. That's actually a really hard thing to say. Wow. You can alternatively leave me a comment down below the video letting me know your thoughts, how you're doing, how your day is going, so forth and so on. And of course, if you have a story, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to submit it. I get them pretty much as soon as you hit the submit button. I've tested it, because I broke the site one time and had to test it. Stories After Midnight, a good dude, but I'm sure he dislikes me for how much I break his little tool that he made. I don't necessarily break it. Just sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes, it's a website. Sometimes things break, but sometimes I go to him and I'm like, hey, bro, hopefully you're good. Scam likely. Cool, thanks. A lot of those today and yesterday. Phone calls, sorry. Anyways, I'm like, yo, dude, how's it going? Hopefully you're good. Can you, like, introduce or implement this little feature that I was thinking about? And he usually does. So I appreciate him for that. Dude thinks that my ideas are good most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. Yeah. My point there is if you send a story through that, I get it pretty much right away. So, you can also do super thanks or super thanks or membership or Patreon to support the channel further. Never expected, but always appreciated. Some things get you different things. Patreon gets you access to special stuff, depending on how long you stay a patron. If you stay a patron for a few months on any of the tiers, like 2, I think it's 2, 5, 10, 20, you get things. The higher up, the better the things, obviously, the larger the things, but yeah. I don't know. I got nothing else to say. All that said, friends, hope you have a beautiful week. Hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important. You are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love, and as always, sleep well.